That's about it. I think everybody has done the introduction. If you guys want, you can stay on camera. If there's a bandwidth problem, go ahead and turn it off. We see that bandwidth is always a problem. So with that, over to you, Soumik, for introduction.
Hi, all. So I'm Soumik Ghoshal, basically based out of Gurgaon, looking into the RSA Secure ID vertical. I've been a practitioner for identity for a good part of my 20 years of career in security. And basically currently I'm looking into some enterprise accounts as well as government and PSU for RSA security. I want to start the session with a quote. It was at Presidency College, Calcutta, where when the examiner saw the sheet of Dr. Rajendra Prasad, he said the examinee is better than the examiner. Over the years, more than somewhere around 6 to 7 years, I've seen Rajan working with our product. What I've seen is that he has been able to mold it to his IDFC First Bank requirement to an extensive capability. And I understand his and his team capabilities are either at par and sometimes at better than RSA internal teams as well. Now, in an OEM or a vendor scenario, okay, we listen to our customers and we listen to our customers, their issues, and always at the end of the day, judge it from a technical hat. So we wear the technical hat and find out a technical answer to the requirements. But the customers and the end users do find huge practical challenges, and only a very small part of that is the technical bit. Now, basically, I will give it to Rajan, who will take you through the journey of what has been his journey with the RSA identity governance and lifecycle. Internally, they say IGA, and basically his journey with RSA. Over to you, sir.
Good morning. Good morning to everyone. And I hope and wish we pass through this challenging time soon. It has been a learning experience for me. And thanks, Soumik, for such a kind words. It was really elevating for me, hearing it from you. Thank you for that. A brief introduction of myself. Rajan, I'm part of IDFC founding team for IT, and from the start of this bank, I've been part of it, and we built up this function from grounds up. And the journey of our maturity model of a process, right from initial to repeatable to define, manage, and aspiring to go to optimize, is the journey of IGA with us. So I will walk you through the whole experience, try to concise that in a stipulated time of 45 minutes, what is given to me about that journey. And what are the learnings we have got from it? My view is that platforms are ingredients. It's upon the cook how you make a recipe. The same ingredients, different cook have different recipes. So I'm just trying to share my recipe book with you, and be kind on me. It would be a learning experience to this elite audience and a company. It would be a learning experience for me to pick up the minds from you. So as I explained, we started off way back in 2015 when the bank came into a separate entity from IDFC Limited. We didn't have any platform, and we were doing in a very crude initial way on emails, on unstructured way of recording. And then we move into a structured format, or at least creating up offline forms on a repeated manner. And once we were in a repeated maturity model, certain risks were identified right at the start. Soumik, you can move to the slide number 2. The initial risk which were confronted to us, where we need solutions. It was easy for us to find out that there are islands of access. Identity was not centralized. There were platforms creating their own identities. Business continuity was just coming up. And let me tell you, this was more of a reactive mode we were in. And with being a bank, you are subjected to audits, reviews. You are all aware of it. So we were in a more of a reactive mode then, and we were trying to find out answer and get a platform which actually address all these challenges to us. To me, it is more of a challenge that do we have a robust business continuity planning? Do we have a system which is a balance in both of our security posture and convenience to the end user? Do we have a platform which is seamless to the way our users are operating? At that time, we thought of mobility is good to have. Now, as turned out, it is must to have. Then, of course, being a bank, we are subjected to all sort of regulatory and compliance, which is very much in part of the business we are. We are a bank, a trust. And then the changing platforms of it. Not everything is in-house. We are operating where we have a hybrid model. We have a cloud structure. We have in-house structure. We have a third-party applications also, eMudra and others. Those operating in bank would be aware of it. Then the passwords. The easiest one, but the most complicated one. That's the easiest one to crack also. So do we have a intuitive password policy? Does it fulfill our security posture? Is it in our overall risk tolerance? And how do we manage the highest risk part, the crown jewels, the privilege accesses, the God accounts? And what kind of review and benchmarking we have in terms of continual or business mandate for getting an access or a resource to have continued access for that. And the user base was very different. It was in-house employees, full-time contractors, part-time contractors, third-party users who do not have even identity with the bank, the DSAs. So having those challenges, we thought of we can't continue in this manner. We need a IDAM solution. We need a centralized repository. So when we thought of that, we should have a solution. These were the questions what we seek the answer for. That platform gave us, and a very basic one: who has what access and how do they receive it? This is a very key for any access identity manager, and I call them not the access identity manager. The underlying role is always a risk manager. So thinking from the heart of a risk manager, this was a prominent question: who has what access and how they receive it? Do we have a trail? Do we have auditable trail of or a mandate for having that access? And the way I viewed it is, do I have a 360-degree view of a user or identity of all the accesses in the bank, be it a structured, be it a privilege, be it unstructured? And what is the risk in those terms? Too initial, but the thought process wasn't from my experience working previously with other organizations like BlackRock and RBS. So I wanted to bring this organization to that level of maturity. And the confidence that I can get it not from just ourselves, but all the stakeholders, particularly business stakeholders, that the appropriation of accesses, that the user who is entitled for that access, do we meet the basic principle of need to know and need to do basis? Do we have segregation of duties in place? Do we have a system which can highlight any toxic combinations or segregation of duty violations? And again, like I said, we don't operate in isolation. The recipe only tastes better when it has all the components in. So do I fit into the BCP-DR planning? Do I fit in and address the risk like simple point of failures? Am I able to bear my journey through our overall enterprise risk process of the GRC process? So those were the basic ones. And moving to the next slide, Soumik, the control piece. The way I view it is not as a service delivery function, rather than a centralized control function. So how good our control is, our continuous control is. Am I able to put kind of a temporal isolation that you get an access when you need it? If you don't require it, you should not have it. Do we have certain kind of a dormancy control? Whether if you have access, you are not using access, that do you really require an access? If we have exceptions, what is the exception policy, or what is will be the exception manager of giving an exception? And what should be our criteria for reviews? It is for just my long experience of handling access identity management. I thought reviews should be more than a checklist. The word review means somebody has to really take a decision. So to make them unable to take decision and underwrite a residual risk, is our reviewer exercises meaningful or not? And of course, the entire user journey, the JML process, joiner, mover, lever process, it was not possible the way we were operating in an offline mode, on an email mode. We needed a platform which gives us the entire flow of JML, the joiner, mover, lever. And is it in time with our capacity planning or not? So when I spoke with senior management, they like the idea that can we have a single dashboard which on the fly gives us the entire user mover lever journey, not just a UAM piece, but the entire things which are attached to your joiner, mover, lever piece. And that's when we did POC with multiple vendors, and that's when we had interaction with RSA for their product. And there were multiple products. We took GRC product Archer, and the particular way which enthused me was the way they have structured the product in terms of the modules which I was looking for. I had experience with other products, but the RSA was new one. So I took a leap of faith, but I analyzed what they are offering and then build upon it. So the assurance I got that we can work with this product for our customization. The very first thing, identity governance, that was a primary ask. The role management, that can we compartmentalize the accesses into roles and somehow make accesses role-based, and that is a golden framework of a RBAC framework. And that would be a footstep for me to do the automation and all the optimization things. Do have identity lifecycle in a one place, all the identities which are created in a bank. And do I have unstructured data governance or data governance access model, which was really a pain before RSA came into a picture. So the DAG module was really helpful for managing our unstructured risk part. And we implemented that, and once we implemented, these were the initial outcomes. These were the low-hanging fruits that just come into our lap, and we were able to visualize that. How do we address accounts and applications which did not tie up with the identity, the Orphan accounts? How do we identify privilege accesses, not just in a PAM area, but a privilege access in the application area? What are our outliers? Do we have cases where we have 90% same access levels, but then 10% is way beyond the median level? What sort of changes, are they authorized or not authorized? Being a part of IT team, you all understand that admin access is distributed all across the functions. The IT administrator have overwhelming access to do even changes on the user access module. Are we able to capture that? What is the result out of movement or transfers? How does it impact the access profile? Can we categorize our applications into high risk, critical, medium, that and within application roles? That part I explained you in a privilege access process. And the pain area of unstructured data. What do we do about it? Do we have a visibility who has what access, who has a read access, who has a modify access? Our policies, can we put policies into implementation and see the violations part of it? As much as I like, shared account is a no-go area, but at certain scenarios, that becomes more of a push-down approach. So do we have a visibility of accountability for a shared account or a service account? And what are those toxic combinations or segregation of duties? The initial part came from business, but I wanted a product or a platform where intuitively we can find out those segregation of duties. So this platform actually gave it to me. And then came the fun part. Then came the part where from repeatable to when we move to a next level of maturity, the defined phase, and moving towards a managed phase. So our approach was more of a risk-driven. If we can quantify the risk and put a currency around it, then we will be able to put appropriate controls around it. Should we enable a risk-based approach of understanding impact of an access to the risk and creating access control metrics? Who would be owning shared accounts? What is the ownership for the privileged identities? Discovering the segregation of duties as of like somebody having a front access on an application should not have access on the back-end in terms of privilege access. And those were the part which we were able to achieve, and we were able to quantify certain accesses. Like I explained, the 90% of access for a particular functions or particular role were same. Can we make them birthright? Can we automate that and marry it with the GML process? If a person joins in a particular role in particular department, these basic accesses should be given to them by default, and other accesses should be part of their maturity in their role, probably from their learning and development and from the sign-off of their manager and a profile owner. Then only they can move up in that journey. So that all orchestration of joiner, mover, lever with the accesses which should be provided to a person at the right time. And this is what we got as the very first cut when we implemented, not the exact picture, I would say, but very much close to 95% close to what we were able to orchestrate ourselves in that these were the output which we were able to extract, that department-wise and the resource-wise, what is the utilization? Who has the what level of access? What is the common access? What is the outlier cases? Those we were able to extract. Soumik, moving to next one. And like I said, the journey is from initial to repeatable to defined, and the next start was to how do we now manage it? How do we quantify that? And just adding to that, in that journey, we had a huge event, the merger with Capital First and a new entity born, IDFC First, in 2018, late 2018. So 2019, again, went to baselining with the new organization, bringing them to the same level, and then moving forward also. So I had a two-pronged approach, standardizing the new one and moving the whole bucket or a whole cart into the new level. My vision, or the vision we took, was how do we integrate this with our GRC integration? How do we integrate our privilege access management, which we are a different platform? And once we have identified the critical accesses or high-risk accesses, what should be our response? What should be our posture towards that? How do we implement multi-factor authentication? How do we implement two-factor authentication? What cases would be liable for those? What cases would be a perfect candidate for those for us to try it out? Moving to the next one, Soumik, slide. And this is a part which we were able to derive in terms of we change our approach from just whole review cycles on a semi-annual basis to more risk-based approach in terms of our certifications, like external accounts, service accounts, shared accounts, and privileges accesses on the applications. We had a very good control in terms of handling some outliers like orphan accounts. In fact, on a daily basis, our teams are able to identify those orphan accounts and able to remediate them on a daily basis. And that was a part of our key risk indicators. We implemented something which we always thought we could do it in an MNC, but was able to do it over here. That's a charm of working with a startup bank. We implemented a daily reconciliation process where the source system and IGA was able to we were able to build a reconciliation logic, which was giving us all the outlier cases which was outside our UM mandate, the unauthorized changes. And it does not just give me unauthorized change outside, but it also gave me the error part of it, the quality control where we have error. Then we built up something very unique. You all must be aware of a principle, 4I principle, maker checker principle. But we had a challenge, not everything was inbuilt in the base platforms where we had a maker checker control. We end up building that for ourselves in the IG to control that error. That was something unique, which we did it or customize it IG at our part, that I could build maker checker control as a process flow within IGA, even if it is not existing as a compulsory, even if it was not existing as the based application part, when we had a manual provisioning process. Into the risk-based review, and another thing is dynamic approval process, that it was not static. Our approval process orchestration is who is requesting an access. If you are part of that role family, then the access is meant for you. The line manager mandate would be enough to capture the business mandate. But if somebody is not part of that role family, then approval process will take a different turn. It will go to the profile owner to review. Even if a business mandate is there to have an access, they will check whether what they are accessing or what they are requesting for access is meant for their delegation of duties or not. And like any organizations, the joiner, mover, lever has always been a key area for their control, especially the lever policy. So we built on that and become more proactive in terms of addressing all the revocations on time, quantifying them and putting a very aggressive SLAs towards meeting those targets. What it helped was coming back and again, a single repository is a view you can utilize in multiple dimensions. It is all upon you how you use that data into information. That single view or 360 view to any risk manager is a charm, because they can identify gaps, they can identify things they
an example of
we endeavor to move to a next level, and I had this detailed meeting with the senior management, and I was able to convince them that access management control is not a post facto job for any platform. We should be part of your POC. Our requirements has to be part of non-functional requirement. We became the central team in POC part, where a new system is deployed or even evaluated for a bank. We become part of that team, and we become part and parcel of the journey from assessment to deployment, so that we are not reacting to a platform when it is introduced in a bank. The platform is compliant from day zero. That has been our endeavor. And thankfully, that has, I would claim it's 100%, but 85–90% we have achieved there. And Soumik, moving to the next one. Again, once the bank was merged with the entity Capital First, we have now a new entity, IDFC First Bank. This was more of a journey piece, if you can. Yep. So first part you must have got the drift. First was the visibility, or a repository where we have all the information at one place. We have ownership of data. We have ownership of roles, identification. We can run access reviews. We can put policies on segregation of duty, compliance controls, joiner mover lever policy. And the next step would be how do we build a efficient request management system which is user-friendly and user-friendly, and which should reduce the overall to and fro between an end user to a fulfillment. And I explained the role-based change and part and parcel of it, and making it intuitive. And the whole part of role discovery, any changes will be built into on this life cycle of it. Feel free to have any query or anything if you guys have. Pardon me, this is webinar is a new thing for me, so not been able to. One of the key factors where IGA has made difference is for us is orchestration of automation of the entire process from the requesting to fulfillment. That approach have reduced the time. I can give you statistically, when we started this journey way back in 2016, our run rate to put a platform, say a core banking system or our asset management system part, was like 2 or 3 platforms in a quarter. Once we have stabilized and formalized, standardized the entire process, and once we become a part of the core team where we are able to put our requirements in the new platforms, our run rate of integration have increased dramatically. Right now, we are talking 15 to 16 systems being integrated with IGA. That efficiency we have been able to achieve. And it's all UI based, out of box solutioning. And this part, I would say, is over a learning process, back and through between RSA and me, in terms of if I try something customization, I was able to showcase that, okay, this customization works. Why can't this come as your standard product? Can't this be made out of a standard out-of-box solutioning? And as I explained, once you do the automation, your error rate goes down, your fulfillment ratio goes up, your TAT goes down. It makes all the difference. As long as the initial control piece, the approval process and due delegations are in place, after that, the run from that completion was made very easy. And yes, as I explained, that we have to operate as a risk manager part of it. So the basic part of our risk response, and are we operating within our risk tolerances? Those were quantifiable. It was not a gut feeling or kind of assumptions. We could be able to demonstrate that from a platform. There has been a challenge ever since I have been in this part of access identity management to have a meaningful reviews and reviews conducted on time. And legacy, I'm sure you guys must have faced that either people don't pay that much of importance, or it becomes a checklist item. We were able to put a context and the importance why these reviews are required. And to me, if your review is like completed on time, but with 98% the people retaining the accesses or 99% retaining the accesses, then that raises a red flag for me, that somebody is using review as more of a rubber stamp. To address that and make it more interactive and meaningful to the business stakeholders, we were able to orchestrate our review process more seamless in terms of risk-based reviews. But Shomik is showing us more of screenshots, how we were able to orchestrate. We were able to break down even the reviews into phases, like first one to capture the continual of a business mandate, and the second one from the profile owner or a role owner to go to have a mandate from a role owner again to complete a review. That way we were able to have an undertaking for all the residual risks. This is just an example of us. And you can see, we are not just reviewing the roles. Look at the figure up, very small. It's the entitlements. So roles, entitlements rolls into roles. We go to a level where we are able to alter even the entitlements. And that's how it's a loop, feedback loop, that we are in a continuous process or a continual process of re-baselining our roles. We are not stuck or we are not static on that. This review process becomes our feedback process of our role management. And this is a pictorial representation of the value or what we are able to achieve right now and what is our endeavor. So on the left-hand side, you see all the input items like from our HRS systems or a base systems where triggers for a JML command, joiner, mover, lever, databases and privilege accesses, PAM part, file shares, directories, cloud systems, in-house systems. That becomes an in-source to our RSA. RSA does the engine part of automation of provisioning, identification of privilege accesses, then normal accesses, automation fulfillment, role management, as I explained it to you. Are we in compliant with those security policies or not? And on the output side, if you are seen on the right-hand side, you see more of a accountability part. The business managers perform access reviews. The security team are able to enforce policies. The audit team gets, they're asked on a single platform. They have been, since we started, they have been a partner to us in terms of developing this system where all the auditable evidences are available for them at one place. They don't have to fetch 10 different systems to get the view. And of course, our team, which we are endeavoring from manual processing or a request management, I explained it to you, the service part, to more of advisory. So in my vision, we are taking our function to optimize COE where it becomes an advisory to the bank rather than a risk advisory to a bank rather than just a request fulfillment. And last but not least, last in the part of our presentation piece, the value which I've been able to articulate, or I'm trying to articulate part, is the whole process of having a system which is a central repository which can orchestrate your policies, risk part, which can orchestrate your entire user access management identity piece, is actually a cost reduction. Without it, there's too much of a to and fro. With the automation, the request which earlier used to take at least 3 to 4 days, now our productivity is high. Imagine an FTC with a very high cost is coming to your organization, but just not productive because of our required accesses and sitting idle for 3 days. And if you can multiply that with number of FTCs engaged, you can imagine the cost we pay just for people tweaking their fingers. On our side, that has to be just in time. We can't let them sit idle, not because of access not being granted. And yes, overall experience to the end user, to a user for them, IGA itself is not a enabler, but it becomes a facilitator for many other platforms. I explained like our business continuity and data planning platform, for our single sign-off, federated identity, where we are able to use Samuel with third-party platforms to have and convince them that's the moving forward. We should not create identity islands and create too many identities in the organization. And all of this ultimately has to be our response of a risk mitigation, so that we bring down residual risk as minimum as possible, and which is in line with our organization's risk appetite. And of course, the being a UAM, user access management, I'm a poster child for any audit. You pick it up from product, service, or anything. So 155 audits in a year. So we needed a system which can standardize and make it more of an out-of-box solution. We don't have to recreate a wheel for audit next time. It has become our more of a core function and out-of-box function. That was overall experience. Please feel free for any questions or anything.
Okay, Rajan, if I can go first, this is Niti.
Sure.
You telling me you have integrated your CBS, your LMS, your LOSs, your AMS, everything into this application?
Yep.
I have to congratulate you on it then.
No, it's not an overnight job, ma'am. It's been like a journey of 5 years. So, and most of it, if you are able to articulate your vision with management, then the push will come from top. You don't have to, being a risk manager, I was able to articulate that. So we have 350 identified systems in the bank. When I say identified systems, it includes services, interfaces, and everything. But if we qualify them as a business application, where actually a data store is there, where customer data or a data is either stored, modified, that's come around somewhere around 107. Out of 107, 105 are already integrated. 2 would be by the end of this month. That's a target.
So a 5-year journey needs tremendous amount of patience, and to have business on board for that long, that's the reason that I was congratulating you actually.
And the change of management in between. So once, I know, I purposefully said that because that is very important. That's one challenge as a risk manager, or if you're part of information security risk, you require that continuation of a support from management.
So my question really is around, you have got the entire authorization piece working through this application. Is that correct?
No, authorization will remain with the system. We don't, I'm a gatekeeper. I will not be taking up a role who should have what access. It will always be business when revalidated by the risk. I am the one who ensures that stays on the line. I'm the one who will be picking up authorizations, and whenever there's a change in a role or a new role is introduced, a system collects that. So I have 2 basic processes which are running. One is collection process, one is a collector process. Collector process, the primary, who has what access. When I, in the very first initial slide I showed, what access is what it gives me, who have what roles. If there is any change in the role itself, not the contents, but the role, that will be popped up, and that is not applicable to user for request unless we baseline it in our ACM. That's a control. Access control matrix is a list of all the roles with the entitlements, what is the risk appropriated, who is owning that, who is the owner. So even if a new platform or a IT team enables a new role, it does not become request enabled by default. It has to come in compliance. It has to come into our ACM, and then it becomes for an end user to request that.
Okay, understood.
And
I thought it was
and
both the authorization and the authentication both factored into your platform. Okay.
yes, from the provisioning piece, yes, but not from the design piece. So the separation is provisioning piece, yes, but not from the design piece. The design of the authorization will happen on the base system itself. But it's our ability to collect that, our ability to identify any changes on that. And the way we were able to orchestrate and convince management, and I just wanted to ponder on that. When I was able to, I all started with this as a classical small lab or a test case basis, bring it to the management. Okay, I am doing this, and this is the findings in our test scenarios. And if we see this as a variance, to build up a control, this should be our response. So when I was able to orchestrate that roles can be added without knowledge of UAM, the immediate part was the reconciliation edition, and we being a part of a change management. So I became part of the CAB, Change Advisory Board. Without my sign off, a change or deployment cannot happen in a bank. From changing from a reactive mode to proactive mode. Probably that's the answer you were looking for.
Can you talk a little bit about the technical integration between this platform and the other source system, so to speak?
I am not a technical expert. I am more of a principal user. So pardon me for my lack of technical knowledge on that one, but I can share that we have for collector processes, we have two processes like a direct connection API and a stored procedure part where a file is generated from a system STP, and we take up from SFTP and consume that as a collection process, which is primary process for us. And for connection process, that is making the changes in the system, the second process, that we have a direct connection API. Those are the two which we are leveraging right now.
So let me add to that. So this is Shomik here. So the ideal system integrates with different application, as Arjun sir said, in two different methods. One is for the collection part of it, the other one is for the connection. The collection basically can be just a read-only access to the target applications. You need to let us know where your accounts and entitlements are. It can be a CSV file, it can be a database, it can be an API, it can be any standard method of connecting to that application and picking the data up from there. Once we connect and pick up the data, then based on the policies and all, you will go ahead and see what all issues are there and what all problems are there. Now to correct them, you can use a connector, and the connector can again be an API or a direct connection methods, or a JDBC connector for that case. There are multiple different connection methods, but in the connection scenario, we will obviously doing a change, so we'll need a write access on the application. So now, once the connector and connection methods are done, then you can go ahead and decide multiple scenarios, like do you want to directly change the entitlements in the application? Number one. Do you want to get it through a manual process? So for example, your application owner has agreed that it can be the application can be part of governance, but direct changes are not permitted. So he might have agreed for a manual change part. So we can go ahead and use that as well. Or if you are integrating with a ticketing system, or if you are integrating with a PIM-PAM to go ahead and execute that change, all of those methods are are available in the system to go ahead and commit changes to. All of these changes are also called a closed loop change. So say, for example, in all the four scenarios, when the change is said that, okay, the change is complete, the system does not declare the change complete then and there. What it does, it does an entire collection process to verify that the request is exactly equivalent to the change which has been committed, and then only close the loop and says that, okay, this is a complete change. So these are the integration methods with that.
So the second part, which Soumik said, is actually a value addition. That it's not an open loop, it's a closed loop. It's the reconciliation. Once we have independent verification from the collection process, the intended access requested is actually granted the same, then only we close the loop.
Okay, thanks.
Ram here. Must first thank you for taking us through the journey. We got a ring view of your entire program, very well executed. Similar to this, we a few years ago, when I was part of a large multinational bank, we implemented another product for IAM. The technical implementation, I don't think we had major challenges, but rather we had issues in cultural aspects, and also getting the required support from the senior management on a consistent basis. A lot of churn happened in the senior management, and not everyone viewed favorably. Even onboarding applications to the platform was a big challenge, because everyone wanted to avoid getting into the purview of rigor of identity access management cycle. So I just want to understand one thing: how did you manage the cultural aspects? I mean, the top-down support and peer support. I mean, it's a huge, compliance issue for us. So can you give us some insights on that?
Sir, I'll be frank, I was a bit lucky on that part. The theme of the bank and the underlying principle is we have to be the best in the world. And best in the world for a retail bank can't happen with the mediocre processes. So I was able to articulate and tie back to the basic principle, or the basic or the underlying North Star or a pole which bank was striving for. I just aligned my entire posture with that and were able to orchestrate the value piece of it. It is always a cost and benefit analysis at the end. As a risk manager, we all have to articulate our cost and benefit analysis. I will not even claim I am a champion under that, but I am just unorthodoxly persistent. Let me say that. So I was groomed by mentors, CISOs who said that a no doesn't mean never. No means that you need to work hard, go back on the drawing board, articulate your benefit part more, so that the person who is analyzing cost can evaluate your benefits better.
Okay, I get it. Being a smaller tech-focused bank and being agile, it helped. But the bank I worked with was a legacy bank with 150 years of history, so it was very difficult to implement.
I agree with you. That challenge we face, and that was my motive to even join a startup bank. So working with RBS and BlackRock, when the call came from IDFC, to me the motivation was whatever we were thinking we can do. Now I have a platform to build it. It was just a shocker. When I came, it was all jungle. There was no structure around it. So the charm of building up the structure around it is actually the reward.
Awesome.
That keeps me going.
Heartening to hear success stories. Thank you.
Great. No more questions, guys?
And I think, Vikas, this is really an interesting use case. Wherein today, one thing which we learned, the deployment required a lot of efforts and the collaboration from the business as well. So which is a commendable work. And I have one question. When you say, you are deployed within the bank, so is there a dedicated team, or you have extended the same team to do this activity for the entire organization?
I have a dedicated team. It's just a centralized control function. So has become a centralized control function. When we started, it was just extended part of IT. Now we have created a centralized control function with multiple LOBs between it. Like for PAM, privilege access management, it's a dedicated people because they have to work 24/7. the user access management or the application piece, they are focused on more of application accesses, automation as a part. They are working as India working hours or India calendar whenever the bank is open anywhere in India. And then we have two sub-functions, governance and control, which is audit piece and ensuring we have a controls and quality control for overall piece. And a small specialized team, which is our project management team, which works in looking at strategic projects like revalidating our RBAC, implementing RBAC into new systems which come in a bank, integration of new systems with our IGA. So that's how we have structured ourselves within UAM.
Thank you. Thank you, Rajan. Thank you.
I believe you underlying question was, do we have SOD between IT and yes, we have segregation of, that's how we have placed ourselves separate from an IT.
All right. All right. Thank you, Rajan, for sharing it.
Great. I think we are running out of time. So Soumik, do you have any closing comments?
Thanks, Rajan, and thank you all for coming in. And the product is the product is kind of very flexible in terms of, what we did is we separated the business logic from the underlying integration logic of the product. The main reason for creating connectors and collectors was basically we collect the data, run our logic into it, and then basically based on the output and the policies, we go ahead and execute changes. This has been deployed in larger organizations as well, older organizations as well. So for example, Boeing is one of our customers. They're as headstrong as any other organization for that case. And the best part is we listen to our customers. Rajan sir has been a leader in telling us what all his expectations are, what all changes he wanted to execute in the product. Some of them we were able to go ahead and bring into the product as well, because they seem to be really, really logical for the product to grow. Say, for example, the outliers function, which he kind of built in himself, and then we brought it later on. So these are the scenarios we listen to our customers. We can only respond from technical perspective, as I said before as well. But we listen to our customers and try to reduce the challenges as much as possible. Thank you all for joining in, and thank you, Rajan sir, for giving sharing your journey. We'll like to hear from you. If you have any other queries, we can answer that, and we can discuss with you as well. Vikas.
Yeah, great. I think that's about it. Thanks everyone for joining in, and thanks Rajan for sharing great details around the deployment. So thanks everyone. Thanks RSA team. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Stay
Bye.
safe.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.